would have spent 50% of my time in local government and 50% of my time in private enterprise. With private enterprise, which is where I've been for the last, 15 or so years, basically ended up being in facility management. I had a consulting business for a number of years. A good friend of mine, we rebuilt park services back in the late 90s or mid 90s to the early 2000s. And that was a department that had actually failed. So we worked very closely with the mayor and other elected members, and we managed to really turn that around. So that was probably one of the greatest achievements. And then I've spent time in sort of facility management through companies like Spotless and more recently Trident, and basically at an operations management level, regional, and then moved more into the, if you like, the advisory type role where I'd work with the CEO and the COO and others on projects. In the facility game, have delivered construction projects. I spent a good 12 months working with a project delivery team once Cyclone Debbie went through North Queensland, and we were part of the rebuild for that. I started trading, if you like, in a more of a hit and miss way back in about 2001. I guess my source of learning has been a lot of reading. I started off, if you like, I joined Jim Berg, even though they've recently retired. Good on them. And I've been with Jim ever since, about 2005 or something. So what I learned out of there was certainly the confidence, Gary, to go to cash when things were through certainly COVID and the one little crash before that. So that's where I basically started. I use a number of systems. I use bull charts. I use MTD Predictor, where I follow the Elliott waves. But initially too was investing. But I found that I really prefer the trading side of it, where I'm in and out within 30 to 45 days at max. I've got a number of strategies I've developed. What I found with, as you know, doing it by yourself can be fairly lonely. And what I found with certainly when I linked up with you guys was, I guess, a reinforcement of my bent towards my strategies, which were mechanically based, where I identified what I went in. I actually, developed my stops and had mechanical exits, and that served me reasonably well over probably the last 5 to 7 years and 5 or 6 strategies. But what I was finding was, when I looked at the back testing, I haven't been optimizing the returns with doing work and a busy schedule of work. Then coming into retirement, I found that I had basically a couple of things. I wasn't fully utilizing the cash I'd set aside against my trading, and I suppose I was about 45 to 50% unemployed money. And that's when I started to look at more seriously back in, I think it was November, where I looked at, another system where I could spread and make better use of the money that I've allocated for my trading activities. That's what I've enjoyed about the associations that I've made through people like yourself and otherwise. I always suspected trading might be full of bloody sharks, and it's been very nice to have dealt with Jim Berg. What I've seen of you guys so far has been really good and straight down the line. So that's been an enjoyable part about it all, Gary. I would say yes. It brought me back as having the right kind of psychological makeup to trade, but I was conflicted. And I've probably gone through a number of years in being, had a conflict in my mind, and I've never been that peaceful trader, Gary. So that really resonated with me. I really enjoyed the vibrance of video chats, and I found that to be reinforcing in my little office in Townsville, to be making connections even through virtual. So that's where I've ended up. And that was a reinforcement that I got, and it has made me definitely a more peaceful trader. I still struggle a little bit with sometimes a leap of faith. And again, we're all conscious and responsible for our own decisions and what we do, what we trade and how we exit and all that sort of stuff. So I still have a remnant of that in me. And I wouldn't, whilst I was involved in, doing the intensive training, I'd sort of lock myself away for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, and really thought that I was getting in the zone and was really enjoying that. And I could see the logic in that. I could see the sense in that. Reinforced a lot of the things my values and beliefs, and it was good to see all that reiterated and spoken about in a more in-depth way than probably I could ever articulate in my own mind. So I felt very comfortable with the whole piece. I had written a number of plans over the years, trading plans. I've got fairly detailed individual trading plans for each strategy. So that legwork had been done, and it's like most things. Sometimes you wonder whether you're really just going through the motions. And what I found was, it convinced me that no, I hadn't been just going through the motions. What I'd been doing was right and was aligned to what you guys were, prosecuting. So that made me feel pretty happy, pretty good about myself, yeah. And what I think I might have said to David, that I certainly have become conscious of not being the expert yet, where previously when you first start, you're unconscious of all of that. So all of that resonated very well I felt, once you lose your primary source of income, I knew I was going into a phase where my trading really had to count for something, because I wanted to be a source of income. And I felt that, I guess, the timing and combined with the intensive training through yourself, it kind of made me grow up, Gary. It made me grow up and realise that, well, there isn't this nice income that I can. That's how I came out of it. I came out of it, feeling, as I said, fairly peaceful, but I felt like I'd grown up after years trading. So interesting psychic. How you, not so much how you enter, but actually how you exit, I think, is where the big failures or the big contributors to the failure rates will be. And that's probably been my experience. So I'd like to say I'm getting better at it. I wouldn't say I'm perfect, but I reckon it's how you exit. And what I think you can find too is, depending on where your associations are and where you're taking it, what noise you're listening to, how you exit can be, can almost be non-mechanical. What conflicts in my own mind, Gary, is the leap of faith to fully, mechanical. I will find that, a couple of my own strategies I've run, back testing, beautiful on a mechanical basis, but I can't get it to operate the same way in real life. So, and I get a bit skittish, and I'll go, right, no, I'm going to take this profit early. I'm not going to let it run. So it's that exit, I think, is the big one. It sounds like this other chap might still be practicing, right? Because when you start, you all know, you put on your first trade, and your finger hovers, and you go, oh, all right, bang. But you practice. You practice with a small amount, your position size. It sounds like he's never got out of, and that's something I took out of Van Tharp, was, through all the position sizing, you can muck around for years and go nowhere related to your position size and how much you're using out of your allotted capital. And once you gain the confidence in either your systems or your ability to trade that level, and at the same time manage your drawdown and manage your capital, then that's when I think you've matured. It's the maturation, it's the whole maturity continuum, isn't it? And I think that's where people fall short. And I know I've been through all of that. And I think part of getting back to introduction and association with SPA 3 and you guys is that it's like I said earlier, you finally grow up and you realise that you're in it for the real deal. And practice is over. It's over. It's every move is now real, and every move you make, you've got to be confident in. So recently sort of commented on the fact that, one of the portfolios has just come out of a long period of, lower, and it's just come back out. And that takes real belief in your systems. It takes a fiscal capacity to withstand that time. Is that the best use of your money? It's all those sorts of things. And I don't think anyone should be frightened. I mean, you have to manage your affairs. But having said that, that doesn't dilute trading with a mechanical system such as SPA 3. That's one of the systems that you use, and you got to believe in it and understand it and, apply it judiciously, I think. Now, is that using discretion? No. You're using the mechanical system, but you're doing it in a way that's measured. I see the value in it. It's quite peaceful to have a system that you don't have to be second guessing with all the time. But yeah, so obviously I maintain my Asian super portfolio. That's myself and my wife's. Now, I trade that fairly closely. I just don't, as I said before, I just don't set and forget it. So I look at that, and then I'll shift in between asset classes as I look at, dare I say it, past performance. But that's, that's the gauge I use, and just keeping an eye on it. And also I limit my exposure. I have been limiting my exposure to international investment. So yeah, to answer your question, certainly a big part is the super portfolio, which will see us through the next 6 years. The other thing is to have a trading portfolio, which I've allocated a certain amount of funds to, and continue to trade that against, if you like, or using, if you like, the 3 systems, including SPA 3. So to answer your question, superannuation, a trading element and an investment element. That's where I'm heading. And the skew, if you like, or the weighting to this has changed. Now, and that's what I've said, it's really the main game's on, and it really is securing enough income, if you like, to not so much fully replace, but to replace what I used to earn when I was working. So there's an income-driven stream, and that's the real deal. And I've got to get cash to live. I'm going to leave my super alone. That's the game. The other part, I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. It's. I think when I first started off, mate, it was a hobby. No longer is it a hobby. So I see it as being a business, fully fledged business, and I've set all my accounting up for years to reflect that, and it's something that I get a kick out of. I do enjoy sitting down of a night, going through, and I would feel a bit lost, if you like, with our trading.